The wind was biting that afternoon, whipping through the narrow city streets as if it had something personal against anyone outside. Alina's worn delivery bag weighed heavy against her back, not because of the 3 neatly packed lunch boxes inside, but because of the day she'd been having. She had already been yelled at by a customer for being too slow, nearly got clipped by a speeding motorcycle while crossing the road, and she still had another 2 hours on her shift before she could even think about going home. Her shoes, once white, were now gray with dirt and rainwater. Her fingers ached from gripping the bicycle handles in the cold. And yet, she kept going. She had to. Rent wasn't going to pay itself. It was on her way to deliver to a cramped office in an old brick building that had happened. She turned a corner too quickly, dodging a group of pedestrians, and nearly collided headfirst with a man in a dark overcoat. The impact jolted her, sending one of the lunch boxes tumbling from her bag and splattering across the wet pavement. Her heart sank. Those meals weren't hers to waste, every delivery deducted from her pay if ruined. She dropped to her knees, frantically scooping what she could back into the container, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. The man crouched too, his gloved hands steady, his eyes, deep and sharp, watching her with something she couldn't read. She mumbled an apology, barely meeting his gaze, expecting him to sigh in annoyance like most people did when a delivery person inconvenienced their day. Instead, he asked if she was okay, his voice calm but carrying a weight of authority. Something about his presence was disarming, though she didn't have time to dwell on it. She shoved the box back into her bag, muttered another apology, and sped off before she could be late to her next stop. She didn't notice that he was still standing there, watching her until she disappeared around the corner. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and that life can change in the most unexpected ways, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories so you don't miss the rest of this journey. Alina finished her deliveries that day with a sinking feeling about the ruined lunch. She knew her boss would deduct it from her already small paycheck. That night, after walking into her small one-room apartment, she stared at the flickering ceiling bulb, the cracked paint on the walls, and the 2 bags of instant noodles in her cupboard. It was the same routine: eat, rest, and get up the next day to start again. She didn't know that the stranger she had bumped into was named Daniel Reed, the owner of Reed Enterprises, a massive logistics and manufacturing company with hundreds of employees in the city. Daniel was no stranger to hardship himself. Despite his wealth, he had grown up in a home where every penny mattered. He had fought his way through life, building his empire brick by brick, and had learned to read people quickly. The delivery girl's eyes had stayed with him, not just the weariness in them, but the quiet determination beneath it. 2 days later, Alina was assigned a delivery to one of the city's largest office towers. She was told to bring lunch to the 35th floor. As she entered the glass-walled lobby, she felt completely out of place. Her scuffed sneakers squeaked against the marble floor, and the receptionist's eyes flicked briefly over her with thinly veiled impatience. She made her way up in the elevator, the numbers ticking upward far slower than her racing heart. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space so pristine and modern it felt like another world. Her destination was an office at the end of the corridor, where the glass door bore a single name: Daniel Reed. She froze. This couldn't be, but before she could turn and leave, the door swung open, and there he was, the man from the rainy street. He smiled faintly, as if he had been expecting her. Without asking, he invited her in and offered her a seat. Confused and uneasy, she handed over the lunch order. But instead of eating, Daniel began asking her questions, not the usual small talk strangers made, but deeper ones. How long had she been working as a delivery courier? Did she enjoy it? Did she have any plans for the future? Alina didn't know why she answered truthfully, but she did. She told him about quitting school to care for her sick mother, about her mother's passing, about the debt that kept her tied to exhausting shifts. She told him she'd once dreamed of studying design, but life had pulled her in another direction. Daniel listened without interrupting, his gaze never leaving hers. When she finished, there was a long silence before he said something she never expected. "What if I told you you could work here, not as a courier, but in a position where your skills could grow?" She laughed bitterly, certain it was a joke. But he wasn't smiling. He explained that he had a vacancy in his marketing department, an entry-level role that came with training. The pay was better, the hours humane. She could learn, build experience, and, if she wanted, pursue her design ambitions on the side. All she had to do was take the chance. It sounded too good to be true, and Alina hesitated. People didn't just offer opportunities like that, but something in Daniel's tone told her he meant it. The memory of her cold, dim apartment pushed her to accept. Her first weeks at Reed Enterprises were overwhelming. She struggled to keep up, her lack of formal education making her feel like an outsider. There were whispers from colleagues about how she'd gotten the job. She worked late most nights, determined not to prove anyone right about her being unqualified. And Daniel, though often busy, would check in, sometimes with advice, sometimes with a quiet reminder that she was doing better than she thought. Slowly, things began to change. She learned to navigate complex projects, built confidence in her ideas, and even started sketching designs during her breaks. Daniel noticed her talent and encouraged her to submit a concept for the company's next campaign. When her design was chosen, she couldn't believe it. Months later, she stood in front of a crowd at the campaign launch, her work displayed across giant screens. As the applause washed over her, she caught Daniel's approving nod. She realized then that their meeting on that rainy street had been more than chance, it had been a turning point, one that had taken her from delivering lunch to delivering dreams. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Special request to comment. Share in the comments if you've ever experienced an unexpected act of kindness that changed your life.